go up and apply the principles you learned to meeting someone new. Go up and apply the principles you learned into trying to approach like whatever girl you want to talk to. Getting up and joining the clubs that have been recommended for you to join. You have to get over the mentally hard barrier of doing the actual thing, which is a lot harder than just learning about doing the actual thing or learning what to do in the imaginary situation that you're imagining, because you don't leave your house. And there's going to be trial and error, there's going to be failure, you're not going to get it right, because there's learning the principles and then there's applying them, and you're not going to apply them well, you're not going to apply them perfectly, and you're going to fuck up, and that's going to demoralize you, and you're going to be less likely to try again, and you end up back where you started. I think it's no surprise that you're lost in life. You don't know where to go, where to hide. You've no direction. You're unhappy. You've man boobs because you've gyno. Irrelevant, I know. Just an ad hom. Yeah, you just wake up in general with no direction in life and no idea what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to go. You're unattractive. The last time any girls looked at you twice was the plague.
Emotional damage.
You're a lonely guy because you don't have friends. You don't know how to make friends because we're in a very increasingly isolationist society. And you probably got bullied at school because you're not cool and no one liked you, and you very low self-esteem in general now because of it. And you grew up in a very kind of feminist-centered society that's kind of vilified you and vilified masculinity, and you just kind of feel like there's no one out there speaking up for you. There's nothing out there for you. You kind of feel lost. You've been made to feel, by virtue of you being a man, by a very increasingly hostile society, that your concerns aren't valid. You're a privileged man, you're a privileged white dude. You just need to suck it up and make room for the minorities. I'm not white, but you get my point. And obviously, because our societies are so fucked up, we're so isolationist, we're so isolated, we don't have any of these close-knit communities that we would have had beforehand to try and help each other out. We're no longer in very interconnected communities and families where you can just ask your elder or ask your dad or your older brother for advice on how to navigate these things, because it's a completely different ball game. Because the reality is, with how much the world has changed in such a short space of time, your older brother is probably just as confused as you are right now with how everything has changed. Your dad's completely out of touch. He doesn't know how to navigate this world. The monsters he faced are no match for everything, with all the social media and all the dopamine and all the fucking viruses that are infecting our fucking society right now, with all these fucking bad actors and bad companies that are just the advice your dad can give you is teaching you how to win in a sword fight against another sword fighter, and he's gonna teach you how to wield your sword, and you're coming up against someone with a fucking AK-47 and 17 tanks. So the unfortunate reality of our world is, because you don't have that, the only thing you have is the internet, and you have to navigate a whole load of bad actors out there to try and figure out where to get your advice, essentially. You once had communities of people who were actually interested and had a vested interest in seeing you do well, to now you have alpha males on the internet.
Someone has to fucking flip the burgers, dumbass!
So then you get advice on how to improve, and you basically watch all the videos, and you read all the books that have been recommended. You read Atomic Habits, and you learn about the 4 key rules on how to build habits. You read How to Win Friends and Influence People, and you learn about how you need to smile and remember people's names, and don't criticize but give praise, and be hearty in your approbation and lavish in your appreciation or praise. You read The Mystery Method and learn about how picking up girls can be divided into 3 simple steps of, some shit. Oh, see, in the approach section, you gotta do the opener, and you gotta get in, and then you get to the comfort building stage, and then you get to the closing stage, or you read The Way of the Superior Man, and you learn how to, spiritually edge your dick so you get a brain orgasm. At the end of the day, you learn all this stuff, you kind of internalize all these principles, and then what happens? Nothing. You're still a beta male, your life's not any better, you're still the same as you are, and that's because you don't become an artist or a painter by learning all there is to know about colour palettes and how different colours mix with each other, and never actually putting a paintbrush on a canvas. And you end up becoming what I like to call the theoretical self-improved guy.
It's science.
The reality is you kind of have to go out and apply everything that you've read and everything you learn into the real world, and you have to get over that barrier, which is the hardest part. Like, the hardest part isn't learning and applying yourself and doing all the hard consumption. It's actually getting over the social anxiety barrier. Go up and apply the principles you learn to meeting someone new. Go up and apply the principles you learn into trying to approach like whatever girl you want to talk to. Getting up and joining the clubs that have been recommended for you to join. You have to get over the mentally hard barrier of doing the actual thing, which is a lot harder than just learning about doing the actual thing or learning what to do in the imaginary situation that you're imagining, because you don't leave your house. And there's going to be trial and error, there's going to be failure, you're not going to get it right, because there's learning the principles and then there's applying them, and you're not going to apply them well, you're not going to apply them perfectly, and you're going to fuck up, and that's going to demoralize you, and you're going to be less likely to try again, and you end up back where you started. What's usually like the first thing that people do to fix their lives? It's usually the gym. So you usually get into the gym, you work out, you want to improve your appearance, improve your confidence, improve your health. Yeah, that's probably the one thing where you do actually apply what you learn and you go out, because it has the lowest barrier to entry. There's not much social anxiety that's involved with going out and getting started. There's a fairly simple blueprint laid out. You go in, you obviously know what you're going to do after you learn all the theory and learn how to train. Then you go in and you just do it. So out of all the self-improvement things, it's probably the easiest thing to kind of get right, essentially. It is still hard to stick to, but, you know, give it a few goes. You'll eventually stick to it if you're determined enough. And once you stick to it, make a habit of it, it's really easy. There's not much of like a social anxiety barrier to going in and trying it in the first place. The hard part is like the consistency and sticking. Like, it's one of the like really obvious things where it's like, yeah, you have to go out and you have to like, you know, do the work and build muscle, because you're not going to build muscle by just learning about it. So like, you can't ever be a theoretical gym bro. So then after a while you kind of realize, oh, like shit, you zoom out and the gym's all you kind of have. The gym's all you've done for yourself in terms of self-improvement. Like, it's one of those things where you go in, it depends on, no matter how much of a shit day you've had, you go in, you feel productive, and it gives you this feeling that you're actually being productive throughout your whole life, which you are, like it is something productive. But you get this feeling that you're doing something and you're progressing, but then you zoom out and then you realize, oh, like I'm just a gym cell.
What did I achieve today? Well, I went gym. Tick. Is that it?
But it takes a while to come to that realization, because it gives you that feeling of productivity, and you'll go into the gym and you'll come out and you'll feel like a real big man, and you'll carry that feeling on for the day. So how do you avoid that one-way ticket to gym celdom? Well, theoretical self-improvement has got to go, because you probably thought the hardest part of self-improvement was the learning, the reading, and the consumption. But in reality, for you, that was probably the easiest part. Look at you, you're a content addict. Have you ever considered why time moves by faster as you get older? Well, there's a few reasons for that. So time, your brain registers time by how many new memories you have, new experiences you experience. So when you're younger, everything you're doing is practically new, because you're doing so many things for the first time. So there's more things for your brain to register, and those things is what makes time go slower. As you get older, there's less new things you're doing.
Boring, right? So boring. I want to kill myself.
Your brain isn't registering as much of that, so time just moves by faster. And there's also the thing of, as you get older, obviously 2 months when you're 10 years old is a much bigger proportion, like 2 months in 10 years is a much bigger proportion of life than 2 months when you're 60 years old, and it's 2 months of 60 years. So that 2 months out of 60 is a lot smaller and is going to go by a lot quicker than 2 months out of 10 years, if you get me. So it's a question of proportionality. It's a thing that's going to happen. It's time's always going to feel like it's going to go by faster. As you get older, there's not much you can do to avoid that. What if I told you there's something that's making it worse nowadays? Because as we get older, as we've gotten older, especially like my generation or stuff, where technology kind of boomed in our teens and late adult life, as we're getting older, our lives are becoming less memorable and more empty than adults would have been like 30, 40 years ago, or even 20 years ago, let's be honest. Because remember, our brain encodes time through memories, and through how many new memories we have and how many senses are engaged in those memories. And with technological stuff, and nowadays because of technology, we're not engaging all of our senses as much, and we're not we're not engaging, we're isolated, so we're not making new memories as much. With constant media consumption, time just evaporates like nothing. Like there's probably so many times where you've probably sat down, scrolled on your phone or scrolled on like TikTok or something, and you've realized, holy shit, like 3 hours have gone by, and like what has happened? Because like when you sit down and consume content or you consume social media, you think, okay, you're consuming new things, so that should be like novelty and new memories created, right? But no, because in reality, how many times have you sat there doom scrolling on social media, like looking at memes, videos and stuff, and then you've got up after like 3-4 hours and you're like, bro, I don't remember a single thing I just watched. Like, what meme did I just see?
What's happening to me?
There's no memories that are encoded because it's such low quality information, doesn't register in your brain. You're only engaging in 2 senses, and it's low quality senses because it's a 2D image on a screen, essentially. There's no smell, there's no touch, there's no interaction. You're engaging, so your brain just doesn't register that. And if you're doing that more and more often now than humans ever have before,
the world needs less Facebook and more face-to-face.
Time's gonna evaporate at a pace that's never been seen before in your mind. Like someone who's 25, 20 years ago probably didn't feel time going as fast as I do nowadays. And all this consumption includes self-improvement stuff. It includes reading. I'm not saying don't consume and don't read, because you do need to learn, but eventually you're gonna have to put all that shit down and go out into the real world and make some memories that will slow the passage of time. That's real improvement of your life quality. That includes happiness, sadness, failure, trial and error, pain, heartbreak, the whole lot. And you won't do any of that if you're perpetually stuck in your cycle of media consumption, acting like it's self-improvement. How do you actually stop this kind of media consumption and actually put yourself out there and just learn through life? You got to do a thing called, I think, de-escalation. You're kind of weaning yourself off like a drug. You're weaning yourself off of a drug where you don't just go cold turkey, you kind of slowly deload, because social media and content it's like a sedative for you. It's a sedative for your mind, so it is essentially a drug, and you need to wean it off like a drug so your mind can start feeling things again, and through that feeling, time will start feeling like it's moving at a reasonable pace again. So you need to progressively overload your withdrawal until there's some things where you've cut out completely. Like some things you can leave in, like long form kind of content, maybe movies, books, like educational stuff you can kind of leave in, but you want to have cut out a lot of the low quality trashy shit. And through progressively you want to get to a point where you're at that point. The things that you can still leave in by the end of your de-escalation are usually, as I said, long form, things that are kind of hard to binge and hard to get addicted to, so you're only kind of dipping in every so often to a point where you're actually gaining something from it, whether it's entertainment or learning. There's a concept of the medium is the message, which is basically like the medium is like the platform that you're consuming and like the format it's in. So like short form content, TikTok, Reels, that's a medium. Long form content like videos, podcasts, audio stuff only, or movies, and then there's written like books, reading, and then there's like going to plays and stuff. There's some mediums that you want to have eliminated completely by the end of de-escalation. Like you can try and say, look, there might be some good stuff on TikTok, like short form content, but at the end of the day, that whole thing as a medium
is pure trash.
To the point where staying on it, the benefits of what you could learn and what you could get from it are heavily outweighed by all the negatives you can get from it. So by the end, I think the mediums that you should have gotten rid of are any short form, TikTok, Instagram Reels. Obviously you can still keep Instagram for as long as you're not using Reels, which surprisingly I've never gotten into just scrolling on Reels, so I'm good with that. I deleted TikTok months ago and I don't regret it. I'll sometimes go back into it when someone sends me some shit just to watch that thing, and then I'll delete it straight away. Never looked back, so grateful. But yeah, that whole thing, by the end, you should never ever have gone back to that. There's no benefit from that medium at all, because that medium, like the whole concept of short form content, it encourages low quality content at the end of the day. The whole medium, whatever good quality content that may have been there at the start, it lessens over time the more TikTok develops, because the medium just doesn't encourage it. I'll add to short form content any content, whether short form or long form, that's infused with like sex or sexuality or hyper like sexualization, that's not good for your brain. That's awful. Obviously porn and stuff, but like anything like, you know, twerking, like Instagram girls twerking or some shit, just get rid of any of that shit. That's not good for your brain. Any benefit or quality entertainment you can get from things that are infused with that, I'll include Game of Thrones in that.
The Northerners will never forget.
Any entertainment that you get from Game of Thrones, I think, is significantly cancelled out by hyper sexuality. Like, maybe a movie that has like one scene here and there is fine, but like, you can tell when something is, the purpose of the movie or the content is fucking jerkbait, essentially. And any quality education or entertainment that would have been gained from the content is automatically just tanked by any like sexualization that's added to it, in my opinion. Slightly better mediums above that would be things like, you know, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, those kind of algorithmy things where it's like text or communication. It's still very low quality, but it's better than short form content. Then slightly better than that is YouTube, where there's long form content that you can watch. Obviously still a load of rubbish there, but a lot better than the rubbish you'd find in short form content. There's some educational long form podcasts and long form videos that you can watch. It's still fairly bad because these are all things like the stuff in the level below was, as I said, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. These are all algorithmically motivated and driven, and so that's just bad because the algorithms are used to manipulate your senses to keep you on the platform, keep you addicted, keep you watching low quality shit. YouTube is the same. The algorithms are everywhere. Everything is trying to zap your attention. You probably can't even watch a video without scrolling through the comments or looking at the recommended. They recommend you some stupid shit, knowing your personality from everything you've watched, to kind of go and click on it to keep your attention, even though it's not beneficial for you at all. But at the end of the day, we're getting to a stage now where the benefits are starting to become a little bit more worth it, and the negatives aren't as bad, like in the total balance of things. Then better than that are things like Spotify or Audible or like Apple Podcasts, things that are not necessarily like there's an algorithm there, but it's not like an algorithm made to keep you addicted. I think it's more so an algorithm based on what you might actually be interested in, and these are things that are very hard to like get addicted to. So audio only. And then I'd say even Netflix as well. Netflix is good. You don't really sit there and get addicted to scrolling on Netflix unless you're really down bad, but it's long form content, movie content. You get something from it, even if it is mostly only entertainment. You can get some education from there, of course, as well. But yeah, I think that next step is Netflix and Spotify and all the audio stuff. And then the next step over that is in real life stuff. So books, magazines, theater, going to see a play, going to see a musical. Remember that? Things that can intersect with doing things in real life. So going to a cafe and reading a book, or going to the park and reading a book, or going to a musical or a play, or going to the cinema to watch a movie with a friend. Obviously with something like Netflix, you can also do it with friends, which is why it's a lot better and it's a little bit higher. But that can be part of your self-development and making memories as a human being. So from the spectrum of things that I said, from the lowest quality to the highest quality of media consumption, you want to minimize the low quality end as much as possible and maximize the high quality end as much as possible, depending on where you are at now, obviously. So as I said, it's non-negotiable. The lowest quality stuff like sexualized, obviously X-rated content, but then short form TikTok Reels content, that can get in the bin. Just cut that out completely. There's no excuse to ever still have that. Then you can kind of leave some of the, as I said, the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Maybe just pick one and try and minimize your use of that as much as possible. Keep it to like maybe a couple of hours a week. Again, obviously don't set targets. I don't know why I said that. It depends on who you are and how much you're already using it. And then obviously maximize the books as much as possible, maximize the movies as much as possible. I know it's weird to kind of say maximize movies, but like at the end of the day, bro, if you're someone who's really down bad, you're like fapping every week, and not every week, if you're fapping every day and you're addicted, you're doom scrolling on TikTok for like 8 hours a day, bro, an improvement for you is scrolling on Facebook. Like that could, if you're scrolling on Facebook 8 hours a day instead of TikTok, that is an improvement for you. If you're sitting down and watching a movie and actually able to sit down and watch it till the end without pausing it or going on your phone or going on TikTok or going on YouTube, that's an improvement. So part of your improvement, part of your de-escalation could be to watch more movies, to watch more YouTube. I know it sounds sketchy because I'm on YouTube and I'm saying, yeah, watch more YouTube, but honestly, it could be. And then if you're someone who struggles with YouTube and struggles with Netflix and podcasts and stuff, then part of your de-escalation is to go to the cinema or read more books. And then there's this thing where people will try and be like, okay, I'm gonna de-escalate and go and try and read books now. So they'll go to the hardest fucking philosophy, fucking whatever kind of hardest to read, like fucking 50 page or 500 page 10 volume. Be realistic, like you're not at that stage yet. You've been addicted to like short form content most of your life. Start with maybe Diary of a Wimpy Kid for a change.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
But then with all that, you also want to have the overall, don't forget the overarching aim is to reduce content consumption in general. Obviously, if you're maximizing the good end of the spectrum, you're doing better because those things are harder to binge anyway. So you'll probably naturally find yourself consuming less overall. But also just be aware to keep an intention of having like a lower screen time by like 10% each week, or something like that. So then you've more time, if you leave more time to silence, more time for just to yourself, not consuming anything, you'll find yourself more likely to think about ways and figuring out ways to actually go out into the real world and doing and making memories. So yeah, freeing up yourself from the shackles of content consumption and the internet so that you're able to go out into the real world and actually make memories. So yeah, be realistic, wean yourself off a little bit. Don't jump from TikTok to Roman philosophy. Jump from TikTok to maybe YouTube, and then from YouTube to maybe Audible or Apple Podcasts, and then from that to maybe reading a sci-fi book, and from that to like a self-help book, and then from that, nothing, essentially. Or like from YouTube to movie to a book to theatre to real life, that kind of thing. So yeah, hope that helps. See you next week.
Beat up keeps going